Well, there's a lot to make of President Biden's third State of the Union address. It was an address that could have easily been mistaken for a Democratic National Convention speech. It ran 68 minutes. It was unusually energetic, but definitely loud. You had to turn down the volume a few clicks if you had it up at the normal level. The address was a clarion call to progressives. It was designed to rally the base ahead of a high-stakes election. Biden called out Republicans. He lambasted the Supreme Court. And instead of using the moment to reassure the country about his vision for the future, we learned just who keeps President Biden up at night.
Now my predecessor, 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 my predecessor.
I'm spinning Harris from my predecessor. Those were all, I want to make this clear. Unique, separate times.
Oh, yeah.
13 times.
Definitely. You know what? I've been saying it all day. We may not know what his vision for the country is, but we know he hates Trump. We're very clear on that. 1 hour, 7 minutes, 17 seconds. So he reassured, I would imagine, at least on the stamina point, some of his detractors, within his own party about whether or not he's got the fitness to serve. He has the fitness to stand for an hour on a speech that he obviously could spew and dial in that base of just kind of basic instinct anger. Like that emotion was his driver last night. He gave no hope and compassion for the people of this country. He gave no vision for the people of this country. He stood more for the border between Russia and Ukraine than he did our border with Mexico, where millions of people have come over illegally in this country. So, I mean, if the assignment was to look angry, be angry, and court the far left, really hold their hand, he got the assignment.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. This was a speech, Sean, that was designed for progressives. The timing of it. I don't think it was by accident that this was after Super Tuesday. He wanted to solidify Trump as his opponent and then go on the attack. His tone of anger, and then also the message. I mean, the Gaza deliverable, abortion, all of the progressive finest moments, democracy is dying, was in there. And there's at least one progressive who was thrilled. Let's bring in Joe Scarborough. Watch what he had to say.
It was give him hell, Harry meets Ronald Reagan. So many beautiful lines here. Again, delivered beautifully. And in the words of Naomi Biden, doubt him, then watch him. He's been defeating the odds his entire life. He just keeps surprising people. He just keeps winning.
Sean.
Yeah, Joe Scarborough is a sycophant of Joe Biden. Joe calls Mika and Joe quite a bit, so you can't blame him for being on the same page as Joe Biden. But it's called the State of the Union. Not the state of the Democrat Party, not the state of his re-election campaign. It's the State of the Union. And usually, historically, State of the Unions are about America and where we are as a country, as a people. And there's always tinges of politics. This speech was almost all politics and only a tinge of America. And the first three things Joe Biden talked about, he talked about Ukraine, he talked about January 6th, then he talked about abortion. But if you look at the American people and polling, and when we just talk to average Americans, they care about inflation, they care about the border, they care about crime, they care about a debt that's $34 trillion. That's over $34 trillion in debt. He talked about raising taxes, not to balance the budget, not to reduce the debt, but to spend more money. So I think he missed the mark. Yes, progressives who are going to vote for him anyway, this was a speech for them, but it was an opportunity to bring in the rest of the country, to unify the country, and he claimed that's what he was going to be. All he did was further divide.
He did. And Emily, there was a moment, and I would say it was the end of last year, beginning of this year, where the media kind of stepped back and did some good scrutiny of the president, which is what they're supposed to do. I mean, you had Ezra Klein at the New York Times write a piece about his age. There were many other age pieces, Axios and elsewhere. But last night, you wouldn't be mistaking them for clapping seals. Look at all the headlines. They all got the talking points. CNBC, Biden electrifies Democrats, spars with Republicans in fiery State of the Union. Associated Press, Biden's fiery State of the Union. Reuters, Biden takes on Trump in fiery State of the Union. USA Today, Biden's State of the Union was fiery. I saw a chyron on another network as I was walking down. Biden's fiery State of the Union. Fiery.
What more evidence do you need for state TV? Yeah, I think, first of all, I love Speaker Johnson. Can we just say how much I appreciated his expressions throughout? I appreciated his support as well throughout. It was a phenomenal, I thought, very real and authentic reaction to the Barb throwing someone else speech writing delivery that we got last night. To me, I really appreciated what you both said. I agree with it, that he missed the mark and he didn't meet Americans where they're at. Not at all. It was all about landing those barbs, landing those comments, disrespecting the Supreme Court, getting these digs out. We know that line by line, everything can be fact-checked. There were so many untruths, we don't have enough time to go into it. I was in real time as he was speaking, thinking them all myself, writing them down. When I transferred my notes to today's notes, it just ended up being like a 2-inch tall eye-rolling emoji. And I'm like, yeah, that pretty much summed it up. Because to me, I was disappointed that all of it was about them garnering enough energy to get that barb out to be deemed fiery. But as we spoke about yesterday, no one speech, no one comment can erase the longevity of the hurt that Americans feel under his watch. No lies that he says in succession for an hour and 7 minutes can make us assuaged to those that have lost their family members under his watch or have suffered under his watch. And his sort of joyful patting on the back and the Democrat Party standing up, their sycophantic selfie taking and all of the distractions, all of that, to me, do not assuage one iota of the pain that Americans feel. And he failed to acknowledge even that.
Tammy, you know, the Biden team would spin this as a win. I saw they told Politico they had their best fundraising hour ever in the campaign at 9 p.m. And then they sent another email to Politico, oh, wait, our best one was now 10 p.m. They think it's a win because they won among their base. However, I think it's a loss with the broader public. They began with Ukraine foreign policy. It's a kind of a bizarre place to begin a State of the Union for our country. And then at the end, he reserved what I thought was one of his strongest moments was when he addressed the age criticism. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality. I was born amid World War II, when America stood for the freedom of the world. In my career, I've been told I was too young, and I've been told I'm too old. Whether young or old, I've always known what endures. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas.
It would have been a better start, I think.
Agree. It would have been, but it shows you what their main concern is, as it should be because of the polls, that he's too old. The majority of the Democrats are saying he's too old to be president. That's the one thing they were concerned about. Not the decline of the country, not the dumpster fire that their policies have started, not the murders, not the open border, not the world situation. It was showcasing him as theater. But here's his problem. This will last maybe a day until the next gaffe, until the next fall, until the next blank look, until the gaps in responses. People are reminded, we've seen the President angry, forgetful guy for 3 years now. So Americans are used to seeing this for a moment, and then they look around once again. It's not about, who we're going to give an Oscar to next month. It's about, can I still afford gas? Can I still put protein on the table? He has a fiery speech. I have no chicken for my child. I have no gas to get my child to school. But he had a good night. Good for him, not good for us.
So real quickly, he starts his 20-state blitz today. Right now, he's in Pennsylvania, Georgia tomorrow. I think it's fascinating, and this is going to be a challenge for Donald Trump. He's got to get out there. He's got some court appearances coming up. He's going to have 2 Democrats. I know one calls himself an independent, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we were talking about it last hour, he's a comer. And he can divide and bring together. He can divide these 2 men, Biden hating Trump and Trump stuck somewhere in a courtroom. They're all going to have to get out there. Otherwise, Trump's going to see 2 basic Democrats on the campaign trail, and that's a problem. Now, will Biden make his gaffes? I agree with Tammy. Yeah, that's going to be what it is. But there is somebody who's coming up, and he technically could hurt both men on the ticket if he does well and gets on the ballot in key battleground states. So that's what I'm watching for next.
And that's why I think it was very smart for Trump to say, I'm challenging you to a debate
exactly.
now.
You got to do it.
All 3 of them, to live fact check the State of the Union, put yourself in the story. Really smart communication.
I saw that last night, too.
Yeah, good stuff.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.